Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we are really strapping in. We're taking an immediate look at a policy change that, well, it sent massive shockwaves, didn't it?
Huge. Absolutely huge, especially through the tech world.
Right. And in just, 48 hours, the number that just sort of landed in my inbox, $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I literally had to double check the zeros.
I bet.
So we're diving deep into this presidential proclamation from September 19th, 2025. Restriction on entry of certain non-immigrant workers sounds dry, but this is big.
Oh, absolutely. It's a seismic shift, as you said.
The core of it, for you listening, is this absolutely staggering $100,000 payment required for all new H-1B visa petitions. And that's for foreign nationals who are outside the U.S. when applying.
Yeah, and what's fascinating and what we really want to explore today is that this isn't just about a fee increase. It's about synthesizing the immediate corporate chaos, the almost certain legal fights, and really the permanent shift this forces in global talent strategy.
Right.
So the mission for you, our listener, is to get a quick handle on both the immediate fallout and the longer-term consequences.
And the big question, I suppose, is, did this actually protect American jobs like the administration claims?
Or did it just maybe inadvertently push American innovation offshore faster? That's what we need to unpack.
Okay, so let's nail down that main provision again. A $100,000 payment for new H-1B petitions, effective September 21st, 2025. Just bam, instant.
Yeah, you have to contrast that with what was before. Typically, you were looking at maybe $2,000 to $5,000 in various fees.
So this is, 20, 50 times more expensive?
Right.
Overnight?
Exactly. For companies wanting to bring in new international talent, it's an unbelievable jump.
And the rollout itself, sources are saying it was just immediate chaos, a massive chilling effect.
Well, part of that was the initial confusion. Media reports, at first they were suggesting it was a $100,000 annual fee.
An annual fee, wow, okay, that would be crippling.
Absolutely. And that initial interpretation, whether it was intentional confusion or just bad reporting, it prompted immediate, drastic action from companies.
What kind of action are we talking about?
We're talking sheer panic. At the institutional level, think about giants like Microsoft, Amazon. They hire thousands on H-1Bs.
Right.
They immediately sent out these urgent internal warnings, telling employees who are traveling abroad, maybe on vacation, business trips, whatever, and their families.
Telling them what?
Get back. Get back to the U.S. before that Saturday deadline. Now.
Just like that, rush back.
Yep. The fear was they'd either be subject to this massive fee on reentry or maybe even barred completely under the new rules. So you had this weekend scramble, people booking last-minute expensive international flights, total operational chaos for these companies.
Okay, so wait, you mentioned the initial confusion about it being an annual fee. Was that clarified?
It was. Later, the administration did clarify it's a one-time charge per new petition. It's not annual. And importantly, it doesn't hit extensions or people already here on H-1Bs.
Okay, that's a crucial difference.
Huge difference. But the initial ambiguity, the panic it caused, some analysts are saying that might have been a strategic goal in itself, like a performative jolt to the system.
Shake things up, cause maximum disruption, even if the final rule is slightly less severe or gets challenged.
Exactly. Maximize the psychological impact on employers, maybe deter future applications, regardless of the policy's final legal standing.
And this wasn't just the fee, right? The proclamation had other parts, too.
That's right. It wasn't just a money grab, though it looked like one. It also directed the Department of Labor to hike up prevailing wage levels significantly.
Okay, so making H-1B hires more expensive even beyond the fee.
And it told Homeland Security to ditch the lottery system for allocating visas. Instead, prioritize based on salary. Highest paid get first dibs.
So taking together the fee, the higher wages, prioritizing by salary.
Yep. It signals a clear move. They only want what they consider the elite, the super high-paid senior-level talent. It effectively slams the door on using the H-1B for, say, promising international grads or more junior roles. So before we dive into the impact, it's worth understanding the administration's official reasons for such a drastic overhaul. They laid out three main justifications.
Okay, what were they?
First, they talked about curbing systemic program abuse. The argument being the H-1B program had sort of drifted from its original intent of bringing in only truly exceptional talent.
Right, the specialty occupation requirement.
Exactly. Second, protecting American economic interests. They specifically pointed to a surge in visas going to IT jobs, something like 65% in recent years.
Implying those jobs could or should have gone to Americans.
That was the implication. And the third justification was national security.
National security. How does that connect to H-1B visas?
They cited some federal investigations into visa fraud, but also made a broader argument about the risk of eroding America's tech leadership if this system creates an unfair labor market that discourages U.S. citizens from going into STEM fields.
Okay. And did they back this up with any data?
They did cite some economic arguments. For instance, studies suggesting employers could save around 36% by hiring entry-level H-1B workers compared to similar U.S. workers.
36%. That's a significant saving.
It is. And they linked this supposed cost saving to relatively high unemployment rates for recent U.S. computer science grads. Figures between 6.1% and 7.5% were mentioned. The narrative was, the system is undercutting American workers.
Got it. Okay, so that's the administration's case. Now let's pivot to the legal side. Experts are saying this faces near certain legal challenges. Why?
Well, the core issue is the legal authority the administration used. They invoke Section 212 of the Immigration Nationality Act.
And Section 212, remind us, that gives the president power
to suspend the entry of aliens, or any class of aliens, if their entry is deemed detrimental to U.S. interests. It's about blocking people at the border, essentially.
Okay, suspending entry, but this is a $100,000 fee. How is a fee suspending entry? Isn't that more like a tax?
Bingo. That's precisely the central legal argument against it. Critics and legal scholars are saying this isn't a ban or suspension, it's executive taxation.
And taxation power belongs to Congress, right? Not the president.
Exactly. The Constitution gives Congress the exclusive power to tax. So the argument is, by using this emergency entry suspension power, 212, to impose what is effectively a massive tax, the administration has stepped way outside its constitutional lane.
That seems like a pretty fundamental flaw. Is there anything else?
Yes, there's a second major vulnerability. It's about procedure, specifically the Administrative Procedure Act, the APA.
Ah, the rules about how agencies have to make rules.
Right. The APA requires agencies, when making significant policy changes like this, to go through a formal rulemaking process. That means publishing the proposed rule, allowing the public time to comment, considering those comments, and then publishing a final rule with justification. It takes months, usually.
And the administration just skipped all that, implemented this fee almost immediately.
Pretty much. They just announced it via proclamation and made it effective 2 days later. Critics are calling it ludicrously lawless. Essentially, they ignored the standard democratic process for creating regulations.
So they're basically betting the immediate impact outweighs the fact that it might get struck down later.
That seemed to be the calculation. Cause disruption now, achieve the chilling effect, even if the courts eventually step in and say, hold on, you can't do this. So, yeah, regardless of whether this fee survives in court, the immediate shock to corporations is undeniable. And it's not hitting everyone equally. It's creating what you could call a clear hierarchy of losers.
Okay, explain that. How does a flat fee create a hierarchy?
Because $100,000 means vastly different things to different companies. It basically transforms the H-1B from what was an essential high-volume way to get talent into, well, effectively a luxury work permit.
Right. So let's look at big tech first. Companies like Amazon, Microsoft. You mentioned they hire thousands. Amazon got over 10,000 H-1B approvals in fiscal 2025, Microsoft over 5,000.
Exactly. Now, for new hires coming from abroad, multiply those numbers by $100,000.
That's hundreds of millions, potentially billions in new costs just to maintain their hiring pipelines.
Right. Now, can they afford it for, say, one absolutely indispensable world-leading AI researcher? Probably, yes. But can they afford it for the thousands of bright, skilled, but maybe more junior or mid-level international grads they used to hire?
No way. It completely breaks that model, doesn't it? That pipeline is gone.
Effectively, yes. As a high-volume pipeline for fresh international talent, it's finished at that price point.
Okay, so big tech takes a hit, especially on volume hiring. But what about the IT outsourcing companies, the ones whose whole model seemed built on H-1Bs, like TCS, Infosys, Cognizant?
For them, this isn't just a hit. This is potentially a fatal blow to their traditional business model. At least the U.S.-based part of it.
Why fatal?
Because their core value proposition, especially for staff augmentation, was labor arbitrage. They use the H-1B system to place skilled workers at client sites in the U.S. significantly cheaper than hiring locally.
And the $100,000 fee just completely wipes out that cost advantage.
Instantly, it vaporizes it. If their model was, we save you money using the H-1B, that argument is dead on arrival now. You saw their stock prices drop immediately, like 5%, the moment this news hit. The market understood their U.S. cost advantage was gone.
Wow. Okay, so big tech is squeezed. The outsourcing model is shattered. Who does that leave?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting and maybe counterintuitive. The most devastating impact might actually be on startups and smaller businesses, SMEs.
Really? Why them most of all?
Because for a startup, maybe running on its first or second round of venture capital, $100,000 for a single hire. That's often just an insurmountable barrier.
They just don't have that kind of cash lying around for recruitment fees.
Exactly. These are companies that absolutely need to find the best possible global talent to innovate quickly and compete. But they're completely priced out of the H-1B market now.
So, ironically, this policy may be intended to help American workers against big companies, actually ends up hurting small, innovative American companies the most.
And inadvertently protecting big tech.
How does it protect big tech?
Because it limits the ability of disruptive startups, who often rely heavily on finding unique global talent, to challenge the established giants. If only the wealthiest corporations can afford to import new top-tier international minds, it concentrates that talent power in fewer hands. It stifles entrepreneurship.
Okay, that's a crucial point. So given this massive cost pressure, what are companies actually doing? What's the strategic pivot?
Well, the most immediate reaction, the default lever to pull, is accelerating offshoring and nearshoring.
If you can't bring the talent to the work in the U.S.,
you move the work to the talent. Exactly. So expect significantly more investment in global capability centers, R&D hubs, you name it, in places like India, Canada, Mexico, Eastern Europe.
wherever the talent is.
And does this cost pressure affect automation too?
Absolutely. This dramatically increases the cost of labor, both foreign and potentially domestic, if wages rise. That provides a huge incentive to invest more heavily and more quickly in automation and AI solutions. Why hire an expensive person if you can automate the task?
Makes sense. And for those outsourcing firms like TCS and Infosys, their old model is broken. So what's their long-term play? They have to transform. They have to move away from just placing bodies in seats, the staff augmentation model, and shift towards higher value, higher margin services. Things like digital transformation consulting, managing complex projects, and delivering those services primarily from offshore locations, not by placing people on site in the U.S. Stepping back to look at the bigger picture, the global chessboard. What we're seeing is the U.S. appearing to, well, actively dismantle one of the key pillars of its long-term economic strength, its ability to attract global talent.
It sounds like we've basically weaponized our own immigration system against ourselves.
That's one way to put it. It's like handing a massive unrequested economic gift to our international competitors.
And who's picking up that gift? India seems like a primary beneficiary here.
Absolutely. This policy is widely expected to trigger, or at least significantly accelerate, a reverse brain drain.
Meaning talent flowing back to India from the U.S.
Exactly. There's even a term for it, Gar Wapsi, which means homecoming. You'll likely see highly experienced Indian tech professionals, people who gained invaluable experience, networks, maybe even capital in Silicon Valley, deciding to return home.
And that would obviously boost India's own tech sector.
Massively. Some Indian business leaders are already calling this proclamation a self-goal by the U.S., something that will turbocharge their domestic tech scene with this influx of high-level experienced talent.
Okay, so India benefits from returning talent. What about other countries attracting talent directly because of this U.S. policy shift? Canada comes to mind.
Oh, Canada's playing this masterfully. They're the definitive strategic opportunist here. They're actively, almost surgically weaponizing U.S. immigration dysfunction to their advantage.
They're not just passively waiting for people to show up.
Not at all. They're actively recruiting. Look at that initiative. Back in 2023, they offered open work permits specifically targeting 10,000 U.S. H-1B holders and their families.
And how did that go?
The quota of 10,000. It filled up in a single day.
One day. Wow, that just underscores how much pent-up demand and, frankly, anxiety there already was among H-1B holders in the U.S., even before this $100 K fee.
Precisely. It shows the existing U.S. system was already seen as precarious and unstable by many within it.
So let's draw that contrast starkly for the listener. U.S. versus Canada for high-skilled talent right now.
Okay. Cost for a new petition, U.S., $100,000 fee. Canada, roughly 1,000 Canadian dollars for their equivalent work permit processing.
Okay, staggering difference in cost. What about processing time?
U.S. H-1B processing can take months, plus the lottery uncertainty. Canada's global skill strategy aims for 2-week processing for eligible high-skilled workers.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
And crucially, the path to permanent residency. U.S., for nationals of some countries, like India, you're looking at potentially decades-long backlogs for a green card.
Decades.
Canada, they have clear points-based systems like Express Entry, offering predictable pathways to permanent residency, often within a year or two.
It sounds like Canada's system is designed to attract and retain talent, while the U.S. system, especially now, seems almost designed to repel it.
Certainly how it looks from the outside. And there's one more huge incentive Canada offers:
What's that?
spousal work permits. In Canada, the spouse of a high-skilled worker is typically eligible for an open work permit, allowing them to work for any employer.
Which is a huge deal for families, right? For dual-career couples. How does that compare to the U.S.?
It's much more restrictive in the U.S. H-4 visa holders, the spouses of H-1Bs, face significant limitations on work authorization. For many years, they couldn't work at all, and even now, eligibility is complex and not guaranteed.
So Canada isn't just cheaper and faster, it's also much more welcoming for the entire family unit.
Exactly. They're very successfully positioning themselves as the stable, predictable, family-friendly alternative for global tech talent that might have previously looked only at Silicon Valley. And, amidst all the policy and economic talk, we absolutely cannot overlook the human cost here. For the non-U.S. citizen tech workers currently in the system or hoping to enter it.
Right. What's the impact on them directly?
Well, think about that traditional career pathway. Bright student comes on an F1 visa, does optional practical training, OPT, gets sponsored for an H-1B. That whole pipeline.
With the $100 K fee blocking new H-1Bs for many.
It's essentially shattered.
Yeah.
Especially for those not commanding top-tier salaries right out of school, and for those already here maybe for years, paying taxes, contributing. There's this sense of feeling, well, unwanted, a real questioning of their future in the U.S.
And what about those already on H-1B, maybe stuck in that green card backlog we mentioned? How does this affect them?
For them, it creates what people are calling a golden cage effect.
Golden cage, meaning?
Meaning, while they might be safe from the $100 K fee for their current job's extensions, changing jobs becomes incredibly difficult. A new employer would likely face that massive fee to file a new petition for them.
Ah, so they're trapped. They can't easily move to a better job, a promotion, or a different company because the cost for the new employer is prohibitive.
Precisely. It locks them into their current roles, drastically suppresses their career mobility, reduces their bargaining power for wages. It almost turns them into indentured servants for their current employers, especially if they're reliant on that employer for their eventual green card sponsorship.
That's a tough spot. Now, let's talk about the stated goal, protecting U.S. workers. Could this policy, despite the downsides, actually help them? Maybe push up wages for entry-level tech jobs?
It's possible you might see some short-term upward wage pressure on certain entry-level domestic jobs simply because one source of competition is now much more expensive.
But there sounds like a but coming.
But the major long-term risk, the big fear among economists looking at this, is what's called the offshoring boomerang effect.
Offshoring boomerang. Explain that.
Okay. The policy might make hiring one specific H-1B worker too expensive, maybe saving that one entry-level U.S. job in the immediate term. But the company faced with these dramatically higher costs and the general instability might decide not just to not hire that one person, but to relocate the entire project, the entire team, the whole innovation center offshore.
Ah, so instead of saving one job, you end up losing maybe 10, 20, 50 U.S. jobs, including more senior roles, project managers, support staff, because the whole function moves overseas.
Exactly. That's the boomerang. You try to protect one job locally, but the reaction is to move a much larger chunk of work entirely out of the country. Net result: a significant loss of mid-career U.S. jobs and the surrounding ecosystem.
So looking forward, if this policy is so problematic, what are the potential fixes? What are sources suggesting policymakers should do instead?
Well, consensus seems to be that the underlying issues the proclamation tried to address, potential wage suppression, the randomness of the lottery, are real, but the fee is the wrong tool.
So what's the right tool?
Many experts strongly advocate for replacing the lottery and this massive fee with a purely wage-based allocation system. Simply rank all eligible H-1B applications by the offered salary, highest first, and allocate visas down the list until the cap is hit.
That would directly address the wage suppression argument, right?
Yeah,
It ensures visas go to the highest paid, presumably highest value roles without needing a prohibitive fee.
precisely. It achieves the goal of prioritizing top talent in a fair market-based way legally.
What else?
Addressing the green card backlog is critical. Eliminating those decades-long waits would restore faith and stability for high-skills workers already here.
And you mentioned startups being hit hard. Is there a solution for them?
Yes, creating a dedicated startup visa is seen as vital. A specific pathway for founders and early employees of new, high-growth ventures, perhaps with different requirements than the H-1B. That's crucial to restore U.S. entrepreneurial dynamism, because the $100K fee essentially gifted the ability to easily hire global talent solely to big tech. Hashtag outro. So wrapping this up, our final analysis is pretty clear, isn't it? This $100,000 fee proclamation. It looks legally very fragile, most expected to be challenged, probably enjoined by the courts fairly quickly.
The damage might already be done.
But its impact as a catalyst, that seems irreversible. The shock, the uncertainty, the signal it sent, it has dramatically accelerated decisions that were probably already underway. Diversifying talent strategies, investing more offshore, the psychological shift is real, even if the fee itself doesn't last long.
Right. So what we've really seen in this deep dive is how one single policy rolled out incredibly quickly, even if it's legally shaky. It can fundamentally start redrawing the global map for talent and innovation.
Companies have already reacted. They've made plans based on this new reality, this perceived instability. Reversing that momentum is hard.
Okay, so we'll leave you, the listener, with this provocative thought to chew on. For decades, the United States' biggest advantage, arguably, has been its magnetic ability to attract and, crucially, retain the world's best and brightest minds. Now, we see competitor nations like Canada, like India, actively gaining these highly skilled professionals, people who might otherwise have built their careers in companies in the U.S. It's potentially a lost generation of talent for America.
A serious consideration.
So the question to mull over is, can American innovation truly remain exceptional if the country unilaterally decides to shrink its access to the global talent pool? Something to think about.